What would you say is the common denominator of people wanting to live full, meaningful lives?
Persistence. Persistence, and I would say resilience, because the guy I don't want to meet on my deathbed is the guy I could have become.
Hi, I'm Moshe Popek, and welcome to Common Denominator. Today we speak with Andrew Sallee. Andrew is an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and a real estate investor whose current portfolio is approximately $175 million. Even more impressive is that he built his first $100 million in assets without partners and without raising capital. We'll chat about business, mindset, faith, and Andrew's incredibly fascinating and dangerous hobbies. Hi, Andrew, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Thanks for having me.
There's a lot of movement happening right now in real estate, and obviously that's a space I'm in, that's a space that you're in, it's a space that I love to talk about. Tell me, how did you get into the real estate space originally?
Crazy question. Originally it was, I know this is going to sound cliche, but from the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I was living in Iowa at the age of 27 years old, making a good six-figure income for Iowa, but it said, how much money do you make while you sleep? And I was a salesperson working 30 hours a week and earning income, but obviously if I didn't make sales, I had no income. So it wasn't until I read that book and it said, how much money do you make while you sleep? And that's when I got into real estate. And I started with just a single family home, and then a 4-plex, 6-plex, 12-plex, 35-plex, 50-plex, 100-plex, stuff like that.
So when you bought your first home, how do you know, right? So you're doing sales, you know nothing about real estate.
Nothing.
Right, so that first thinking process, take us through the fear and the idea.
A lot of fear,
right?
Mainly fear. Well, the first step was I graduated high school in 1994, and at the age of 97, I was working for a home improvement company, and I was 20 years old. I made $102,000, and I didn't really know what to do with it, and the owner of my company lived in this beautiful home with the tennis courts and indoor pool, so all I wanted to do was, I learned early on at the age of 20 that proximity was power, so I wanted to live next to my owner of my company. So I bought that, 5-bedroom, 3-bath home, swimming pool as a neighbor to him. That was my first introduction to real estate. It was funny because it was my first year of a 6-figure income at the age of 20, and I was 1099. So I saved up the $40,000 down payment to buy the home. And I thought in my mind that was real estate, or I thought that was an asset, right? Obviously that was a liability, but it was a beautiful home to have. And then at the age of 27, now I'm making 4 times that income. But I'm spending it all and living the life and the cars and the toys. And I read that book and it just said, how much do you make while you sleep? And that's what changed my mentality, because I loved my home and my Rolex and my Corvette and my Jeep Cherokee. But if I didn't sell that month, I couldn't keep that fun stuff or those vacations. So that's when I bought a single family home and a duplex. And the toughest challenge at that point in my career was everybody in my circle telling me I was nuts. Why you're making $400,000 a year, you're 27, you're making 300 skydives a year, you're playing 50 rounds of golf, and you're traveling 6 weeks. You're an idiot to take all of your money and put it in this apartment building. Because at 27, I bought a $1.3 million apartment building that I owned from 2002 to 2018. And it required a large down payment, so I was taking all of my income dollars and putting it into that asset. And at that time, the fear and the challenge, to be honest, came from friends and family. Everybody said I was nuts and stupid. And that property that launched me to the 1,000 apartments over the next decade.
I think about this a lot. And if you're getting feedback at a certain level, you want to do something more, right? There's this inner dialogue that's happening, like you're saying, and it's friends and family are telling you, because that's the common denominator that I get from every successful person, that their friends, they're at a certain place, right? They're starting out, and friends and family are telling them, you are nuts, you're crazy. It equals that you're on exactly the right path.
You don't realize that when you're going through it, but yes, you are right. I would say one common denominator is when everybody's saying go left, you go right. And at that 27-year-old age, we're making, me and my friend, a lot of my friends are making $300,000 to $500,000, and they're buying the vacation home and the country club and the Ferrari and the Lamborghini. And I'm like, I'm not ready yet. I'll take the money I would spend on that Ferrari and buy it as a down payment. And it is challenged because for the first, I would like to tell the general public for the first 5 years, they're going to say, oh, you were so smart. No, it's 10 years, 20 years down the road, because real estate is amazing. It's my 100% passion, but let's be honest, it's slow and boring. It takes massive amount of time and moves to make the needle really move. So for years, I was kind of made fun of or laughed at.
I think that that's a very important point. For using real estate as wealth creation in America, in the capitalist society, right? You need assets.
Yes.
And real estate is an asset. So is Bitcoin today. So is gold, right? But if you're going to use it as an asset and also has lots of tax advantages, right? It's different than taking a home and flipping that home, right?
Oh my God. Just to think back in 2008, we had talked in the Bahamas. I was like, I bought and sold 1,000 homes from 2008 to 2013. And we were hustling and grinding and hundreds of employees and making great income, right? Imagine if I still had those 1,000 homes, the value and the net worth capability. But I got enticed, by friends saying make more money. I always look at this as opposed to average wealth creation per year or income per year. Totally different avenues. How much did you grow your net worth versus how much did you just grow your income? I made silly income, but what happened was, back then I thought it was silly, that money finds a place to go somewhere. You ever notice that?
Always.
Right? But if you stick those millions of dollars into assets that's untouchable and unretractable, I always find that's the best way. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not, super sharp. I tried college for a year and a half, and I asked my professor what he made, so I quit.
Same story, by the way.
Really? It was my second year in college.
Law school. It was funny. I had a real estate course in law school, real estate law, and I asked him exactly that question.
No way.
I said, tell me about your real estate war stories, because I love the idea of real estate, the negotiation,
right, and somewhat the camaraderie, like-minded conversations.
Exactly. And he said, well, 10 years ago, I helped my brother-in-law buy their first house. I said, wait a second. I don't think that this is where you're going to get the information. It's got to be from the streets of the guys that are actually doing it. Yes. Right? It's always what I go to. And
mine was an accounting class at Blackhawk College in Moline, and I said, just out of curiosity, I'm in my in college in my second year, and I'm thinking I want to do accounting or finance or whatever. And I said, literally point blank after class, what do you guys make a year? And he's like, I'm on pace to make $44,000. And this was back in 1997, 98, and the sales guys at this home improvement company were knocking doors, selling windows and siding, making $144,000. And having freedom. So I was like, yeah, I'm out. That's not cool. I'm not doing that. I'm going to do that route. And then to laugh even more, I remember my real estate class. So I did my broker's license, my real estate license, my CCIM license. I did all the tests. And I remember asking the teacher, and I said, what's your thoughts of investing in real estate? Not just buying and selling and buy. Oh no, don't do that. I bought this duplex once and this toilet and this apartment got damaged and this. And then like a month later is when I bought that 35-plex for $1.3 million. And then the weekend after I buy it, and I'm telling you, I barely had gas money walking away from that closing at 27 years old. It was a $260,000 down payment. It might have been $2 billion. But that weekend I closed on and a tenant damaged the property and then damaged 60 feet of carpet. I was like, that instructor, that guy was right. That accounting guy was right. And long story short, we got through that process. But everybody has that one story, that one duplex or fourplex or one tenant. I'm like, now I got 1,000 of those stories.
Right. You got to think of money also. I think about this a lot. Rather have bricks than cash. Always think about that, right? Like, And the way psychologically, because I was like thinking, I'm like, okay, because I know we always think like people I speak to, like, where's the cash? I always want the cash.
Right.
So in reality, a way that you can psychologically calm yourself is, what has this piece of property that I own, in order for you to be a long-term holder,
right?
What has the value gone up by?
Right.
What has the value gone up by? Wow, okay, but you don't see it in the bank, but that bank is all funny money. You got to think of it like, right?
Right. No, I agree. I always ask that to anybody. What is your average wealth creation per year? So if you go from January to the end of the year, they always say, what did you earn income-wise? I started asking a different question about a decade ago, was not how much did you earn in the last 12 months, how much did your net worth go from January to the end of December? And that's the average wealth generation question. Doesn't get asked as much. It's always how much money you got in the bank and how much money did you make last year? And I always think that's such a short snapshot in time. Like, you could have a killer year, right? And that can erase a few bad years. But what you really need is the longevity and the stability of that net worth portion. I don't know about you, but like when I was in my 20s, I tracked every dollar I put into my net worth column from the year 2000 to the year 2025. I've still been doing that. And you tell the average person that, they're like, no, money in the bank. And, you know, what was your, 1099 or your W-2 income or whatever.
Because what it is once it's money in the, even $1 million, you make $1 million, $2 million of regular income, 35, 40% tax, right? Or 50% tax.
New York guys.
Right, the New York, right? So then that's your net. So you have your partner, the government, right? So real estate allows you to not have a partner,
right?
Or defer that, right? Through
defer the partner,
defer the partner. But one thing that I love that I align with is that you look for problems when you're buying. In other words, how does somebody find a good deal? Meaning, what is that actual process that we can give a tip to the listeners when they're buying real estate?
I think that is the biggest thing. When they go left, I go right. Or the other balance of that is, I started buying real estate in 2002, so I've been doing it for about 23 years. But the biggest thing is finding a seller with a problem. Now, that could be differences of problems. My unique ability has been finding an apartment complex that's 60% occupied, or 50%, or 40, or 80, whatever it means that I can solve that solution, or just a bunch of deferred maintenance. I had a construction company for 16 straight years. We did siding, windows, roofing, remodeling, room additions. Well, I can rehab a unit usually pretty good, or siding, windows, doors, whatever it may be. And so maybe it's a deferred maintenance. Maybe it's an occupancy. Maybe it's a wealthy guy that doesn't just give a crap and he has other things going on, and this is too small. Like, I bought a lot of my investments from developers that were very wealthy, and 9-figure guys don't want the hassle of that $3 million strip mall that's 50% occupied that may take me a year and a half to fill. But me, little guy, I want that little problem, right? And not to say bad things, but divorces happen, partnerships go bad, people hate each other. And when that happens, I'm there just to kind of help. But my unique ability has really been just finding something that's a problem. Buying the, and I have several, like Walgreens or Starbucks or Buffalo Wild Wings or grocery store. I have some sexy assets, but you're going to pay top dollar on those. And the return on investment is a sliver compared to if you give me, no offense, a crap hole that I have to really get in and get my hands dirty and, mow the lawn, paint the car, paint the walls and stuff like that. Those I see as an opportunity. Nothing against buying a Walgreens, but that is a very slow, boring way of wealth, but it's not wealth creation. I think it's not really wealth creation. I think it's more wealth preservation.
Yeah. Where does value really come from is solving problems.
Exactly.
Right? If you're able to take something like right now, I have a deal in Alabama, and there's fighting between partners. The property's 50% occupied, but I know that if I stabilize it, I have a whole team. It'll be worth double
Dude, honestly, right? I bought a strip mall 2 years ago. There was two partners. They just hated each other. And they would have burnt the building down to the ground. I slipped in and just made friends. And literally, I just wanted them both to like me so I could solve the problem. And that's all I did. I had another one that was a bad divorce, not to bring details, but you just stepped in and they hated each other. They would literally take the value from that one from $4 million to $1 million and be okay to write it off. And I'm like, I just want to give you two and find a middle ground here. And I did that numerous times with some apartment complexes as well. The apartments were nice because you could really drive by and see if they're not mowing the lawn, you know, painting the walls, doing siding windows, whatever it may be, and the cars, half of them are, you know, garbage. You know, I could really tell by doing the parking lot assessments, if anything's been done, the types of cars in there. And then another unique ability is if I'm going to buy an asset, I go there and I sit there and I get to know the mailman. I've talked to all the mailmen of all the apartments I bought because they give me all the feedback. I'm just a guy looking at properties, finding out the area. I get to talk to the tenants. What's the turnover? Who's doing crack? You know, whatever it may be on the stories. And the mailman gives me, oh, the police are here. I was buying this one deal, I remember, for like $9 million. And I went there 4 days in a row, finally caught the mailman. And he's like, yeah, the police are here for a lot of stuff more than what you're talking about. And I ran. I bailed from the deal. But it took a lot of that due diligence part that you don't really think of that's outside the box that they're not coaching me in the books on to do.
By the way, you talk about problems, but my first deal was the police chief said that there's drugs and shootings and everybody ran away, but there are solutions. What you could do is you can offer apartments to the police members, to the police, and then they have their police cars, and it really actually cleans up the property. Right? And you put up security cameras.
We put up a security guard at this one property, and I just love taking him coffee and donuts twice a week, and he thought I was his best friend, and I was, but he did all the work behind the scenes because I can't be there 100%. And that's been just super advantageous.
I'll tell you, top 10, I'd say most strategic real estate investors, Sam Zell, right? Nobody wanted to touch mobile homes. He rolled it all up. He's probably considered the most successful return on investment, highest Sam Zell. Probably one of the greatest.
And I agree. You know? It's not sexy and it's not, pretty. You know, the real estate business, I think, has been made to be like, oh, we're becoming wealthy overnight. Are we? Because there's a lot that we've had to go through. You know, I flipped 1,000 homes, I flipped 1,000 apartments, and there's a lot of work into that and involvement, and you're trading a lot of time for money. And that's why I did escalate out into the triple net space and the triple net commercial centers where they were a little less involvement. But on the flip side of the coin, you can change a lease and add values, you know, in the millions of dollars.
But how did, because I get this question a lot, how did you go about without any partners, without any, right? So I guess you're doing the sale, so you parlay it into real estate, but you know, how did you grow without any partners?
Well, so yeah, my first 100 million in assets was 100% myself, no partners, no syndication, no raised capital. And I honestly, until the last 3 years, I didn't know what those words meant. I didn't know what syndication was. I didn't know what partnership was. I didn't know what raising capital was. I thought it was money, not capital. So I'd never really done that. But I guess I did a little bit. Like my very first deal was 1.3 million, $260,000 down, and I just worked my booty off and saved up all the money that I put into Smith Barney and Wells Fargo and investments, and I refinanced my home that I had bought, that 40 grand down, and so I scraped together the down payment, but I also borrowed hard money from a wealthy friend's father for 50 grand that gave me 90-day note, or if I didn't pay him off, he'd take my knees out. But that was a great education because I paid him off in like 42 days, and then I did a 100 grand note. And so I did some hard money notes early in my late 20s, I guess it was. So that created some capital. But what I really did was just I honestly tried to make as much income as I could and live on very little. Like I tracked every dollar that I gave to philanthropy, charity, God, my church. Travel was important to me. But when you can take, say, whatever dollar amount you make, and 60% of that income is going towards down payments on properties, and do that, several years in a row, that really added up considerably. And that's when your friends are going to tell you you're making $1 million a year and you're living on 100. You're an idiot. Why are you not driving a Ferrari and buying a spare home in Florida like all of us? I was like, but I'm keep buying these deals.
Show them the financial statement.
Yeah, I was like,
right?
it's gonna pay off, I promise. And then you retire your parents and you pay off your parents' mortgage, and you're able to do things that really matter to you more than, say, a second home or the fancy car. Now, I got the cars. I did eventually get them, but I bought the assets first that paid for the toys and the liabilities.
No, but I think that framework, as far as young guys starting out, I think working in sales, right, commission-based sales, so it's on you. And then you find the biggest problems in real estate.
There's no floor, no ceiling. Give me a job. Give me a guy that's young, broke, and hungry.
Yeah.
He's going to outperform that Harvard guy that knows everything, and he's going to hustle like crazy. And then we're going to have fun together and a little bit of camaraderie. But yeah, the hustle just doesn't go away. It's just in different avenues, I would say.
Well, something that I was thinking about before the show, which we talked about. Tell me about your childhood. Like, in other words, the background. Here you are, super successful today, but let's go back, you're right? Because everybody says, no, you know, they always talk about they want to feel bad, right? We have self-doubt and all these things about our story and our childhood. But I look back now, it's everything which is the core of what makes you or breaks you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I would just say, I guess, I'm very fortunate, thank God. I grew up very, very poor. I grew up in a trailer park. I went to 4 high schools, 6 junior highs. I became legally emancipated adult at the age of 15. I never saw my parents from the age of 15 till my sophomore year in college. They moved 4 states away, and if I didn't want to go to high school, I'd just call in for myself. So I thank God that my parents were just different mentality. My dad was a pastor, my grandpa was a pastor, and they were hard believe that, you know, you cannot get into heaven. It's like the camel going through the eye of a needle is more likely to happen than a wealthy man to enter heaven. My parents believed you could not get into heaven, and they believe that. They've believed that forever. So I thought that is actually a very nice kind of almost bonus. Like, tell me I can't do something and I'm going to do it, because I don't believe this at all now, obviously. And it's been fortunate because it creates, you know, when you're young, broke, and hungry, I'm 10 years old selling rocks door to door because I wanted to buy Guess jeans and Reebok tennis shoes. And my parents were like, those are the devil, you can't have those. And I'm like, watch this. I went and got rocks at the railroad, and I sold them door to door. A small little item, you may not think of that, but over time it went from rocks to and selling window siding and doors and roofing, and then selling apartment buildings, and then selling, you know, grocery stores, whatever it may be. It's just the level of zeros changes over time. But I think they gave me a just honest look at really character, reputation, and who you're becoming as a man. But live on nothing, you learn to live on that you can accomplish a lot when you have to sell rocks door to door to buy Reeboks.
No, I think about that. I talked on the show before about that every company should have, you know, a chief adaptability officer. Right?
Love that.
Right, because but what is it? We're survivor, right?
Yeah.
Survivors.
Good way to put it.
I've known many, you know, an extreme example, Holocaust survivors, super successful. Some are billionaires. That I've known because they've seen insanity, they've seen craziness, right? So then all you're doing, right? That's your DNA, and then so you do whatever it takes
to get it done
as a regular, just like walking, breathing.
Yeah,
right?
And I feel like over time, too, the safe, secure job is actually more secure. That W-2 that's a guaranteed paycheck every Friday, that seems crazy to me. That's really scary. And the biggest thing I've learned, I think, is from guys like you and Yarrick and other mentors and coaches of mine are simple. The guy who makes the most money in the room puts out the biggest fires. You ever notice, like, guys like you, the world could be crumbling around, but we're still having lunch and making it happen and traveling and making
no choice because you know, and
at the end of the day,
and I know it plays a lot in your life, is faith.
Oh my God, of course.
How does faith play a big role?
You know, and it's so crazy you mentioned that. Obviously, my dad is a pastor. And my family is extremely, extremely religious. But I always wonder, like, my brother got away from God, became a massive atheist for 10 years just because he didn't even speak to my mom and dad for 10 years. I don't know how you walk across the street without having faith. I don't know how real estate guys do it, not having belief in God or something above. I couldn't imagine getting in a plane or skydiving or scuba diving or doing a real estate, knowing that I feel like my faith is my foundation, that I've been so blessed too. I mean, I have the circle of friends that are just amazing and mentors. But I think it all starts with my faith. I mean, that comes from, when I was saved as a young child. I'm not a saint, but I think it does all start there. And I really thank my mom and dad mainly for that, I guess. That's probably a big one.
Yeah, because I'll see, I always talk about this. And again, it's not any particular religion, but a belief in something greater than yourself.
Yeah, something bigger than me.
Because I always say this, when it's just you, if it's just you and you in your head, we're all limited in what our vision, meaning how great, what things are possible, where you can dream, where you can go. But when you have something beyond the scope of the world, like I always love this example, like and Elon Musk says, we're going to go to Mars, we're going to colonize Mars, because his dream is so great. And what does he do? He becomes the wealthiest man in the world.
I love
that. Because it encompasses beyond the scope of this world, so you got to have that type of.
I think the other thing too is the compelling future for the people around you. Right. One of my benefits is Dean Graziosi is one of my mentors and dear friends and business partners as well. But one thing he taught me years ago was not how many millions you create or how many millions are in your net worth, but how many millionaires out there have you created or how many millions have you added to that person's net worth. And I haven't gotten there yet, but God willing, I'm trying, and I'm trying to do that with social media and inspiration, because I'm from a trailer park, dude. I went to 5 high schools. I didn't go to college. I'm, figuring out as I go along. But that was a bold statement, like not how many millions I have, but how many millions I've created for other people. And I think that comes from my faith in God. And I swear you can't outgive God. I mean, I created my foundation in 2021, Andy's Kids, and we feed a lot of homeless people in Iowa. And I swear you can't outgive God. And I've been through a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff. But I feel with that foundation, there's always something bigger and better out there. And life changes once you decide that.
And I've seen this a lot. I've seen people running for retirement. And I know you retired at 39. And I talked to them 6 months, right? No, 6 months, a year later. And they're sitting there because I don't think that they emotionally thought what it would be like. Okay, I have all this money. That's fine. I retired. But what is it like day to day? When am I filled? So tell us about that, right? It's like,
so I come from Iowa. So I get to a point at the, in 2018, I decided to go all in on commercial real estate. So I sold all of my apartments. I had 985 apartments. I 1031 exchange those all into triple net. I focus on medical, grocery stores. I love Buffalo Wild Wings, just commercial triple net assets, office, and some industrial. And the problem with that is, you have no job anymore. You have nothing to do. So I 1031 all my assets. I closed my businesses. I had 6 different companies. I had 200 employees. A lot of work, 60 hours a week, crazy. Of course. And everybody says you have a $42 million portfolio. You have 30% equity. You have, several $1,000,000 in cash. You got $70,000 to $80,000 a month coming in passive income. Go live the life you've always dreamed of. I was like, guys, you're right. You nailed it. I'm going to do that. So at 39, I retired and I moved into the Fontainebleau in Miami. Sure. And that's the absolute worst time in my life. And I stayed there a little too long, but I didn't do anything. Imagine you do bottle service at lunch every day and call your friends to come hang out with you. But when you don't have a passion and you don't have purpose and you're not creating a legacy, it's miserable. I mean, it's miserable, like horrific. Everybody thinks you want to lay on a beach every day and do nothing. But I promise you, I learned, I wasn't mature enough. You make bad decisions and pick up bad habits. But also, you're just not pursuing, the best version of yourself. So literally, that was, I know it's crazy to say retirement was like the worst time in my life, but it was until 2021. The end of 20 I changed, and then 2021 I went all into just masterminds and education groups and going into quadruple my portfolio.
I've seen the greatest internal joy from people that have chosen for self-growth as a lifestyle, right? It could be physically, mentally, emotionally. People really growing, knowing that they don't know anything, but all the people that I've come in contact with, it's like, we just want to learn. We're super curious. We fail, we win, we lose, but trying, right? I heard this from the founder of Coinbase. He said, action produces information. So you got to keep moving, right? If
I love that.
Right? So you get information, right? And you just kind of deal with that information, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of go from there. I also know, right? You skydive and scuba. Are you still doing some of that stuff?
So I've slowed down a lot on that a lot. Like, I think God has a plan. I've had 6 parachutes not work. I've crashed 2 airplanes.
Wow.
Crashed motorcycles at 130 miles an hour. But yeah, I have 2,300 skydives, 100 scuba dives, rock climbing, all the craziness. I mean, that's slowed down a lot. But I used to skydive 200 to 300 jumps a year. I got my pilot's license when I was 21, so I've been flying for 25 plus years. But yeah, I love all the fun stuff. I'm obviously a little extremist in there. But obviously when you have more obligations and more things going on, those just are less exciting. Like, give me an idea. Back in the day, going on in Hawaii for 2 weeks and skydiving would be great. Now that would sound horrible to me. Now give me 2 weeks in a mastermind and other like-minded and talking real estate and wealth and maybe inspiring some 30-year-old guy to go from 1 million to 10. That sounds awesome. Isn't that weird? I don't know if I'm old or changing or what. But
no, but that's more meaningful.
A fun vacation is different. Yeah, more meaningful. Something with purpose and legacy. Like, if you told me to go lay on the beach for 2 weeks, I'd probably, want to shoot myself. Because I'm going to ended up reading, 2 books a day or something like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I ask all guests, and I think about this all the time, especially now. What is something that you're grateful for? I
would say my biggest gratitude today lies with the relationships that I have. I'm very, very fortunate, thank God. I have a circle of friends, from Dean Graziosi to Yarrick Todla to Sean Martin to Josh Slagowski to Scott Scheel, now you. People around me that won't let me settle for less, and they're pushing my standards way high. Like, you had those group by the guys that you go to the bar 3 nights a week and you talk about football and sports and that, and they have their regular jobs. My biggest gratitude today is for the circle of friends over the last 5 years or so that have pushed me to the very best version of myself.
Yeah, it's really special. What would you say is the common denominator of people wanting to live full, meaningful lives?
I would say my common denominator would be persistence. Persistence, and I would say resilience, because this is not an easy task. Yarrick and I talk about it all the time. Do you want an easy life, or do you want an extraordinary life? Because the guy I don't want to meet on my deathbed is the guy I could have become. So I would say it would be persistence and resilience, because it's going to get hard. And you're going to have a lot more hard days than amazing days. And I'm learning slowly to thank God for those troubles. 2024 was a challenging year. The most challenging year I've had, the hardest year I've had in a while. And I'll be honest, 2008, I crushed it. I was ready. I was, liquid, ready. We were ready to go. 2024 was a challenge, and it's been a challenge. And I thank God for some of those struggles. They're not fun to go through, but God, you learn a lot. And I thank God so much we're just creating a much more solid foundation and a much solid more base. It's not always more. Sometimes it's just more from less.
Yeah, that's really, really special. The more you can learn from your failures and grow and appreciate, because I remember, right, so you can have the pains and you can have all the troubles, and it's just a question, which is your reaction, right? Do I want to have forgiveness and grace and walk through that, or do I want to get bitter within myself? And I also, to your last point, looking at the end of life, I always think about, I listen to that all the time. Les Brown used to say, right, the greatest pain that we can have is pain of regret.
Pain of regret.
Pain of regret. It's a big deal. So it's a thing. Oh my God. So whatever pain there is right now, it's only just lasting that amount of time.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with the good. So it's like that, right?
And I think too, over time too, God just is showing us you are the man. The man you are becoming is all the decisions you make when no one's around. And you think, like, all those decisions when nobody's going to know what you're doing, right, wrong, or indifferent, those are decisions that are becoming your character, your reputation, and who you are. And I've really tried my best in the last couple of years to be better at that, especially going through all the struggles, because we all go through them. It's how we handle them, and like you said, how we extend the grace to someone else, because I don't know what they're going through. If I go to dinner and I order chicken and they bring me steak, I'm okay. I'm going to eat it. I don't know what that person's going through.
Normal.
We all got bigger problems, right? And you'd be amazed at the arrogance and the ego. And I was that guy in my 20s and 30s that had that arrogance and ego. And I got to step back and go, thank you, Lord, for humbling me a little bit and knocking me off my podium a little there and showing me some grace.
Well, I want to say thank you so much, Andrew. It's really been special. And how can people follow you on social or be in touch with you?
Best way is just social media, Instagram and Facebook, Andrew J. Sallee, Sallee. Happy to help anyone I can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Andrew. Next week, we chat with Jarek Tadla. Jarek is a residential and commercial real estate investor who has built his own real estate empire. Jarek has over 30 years of experience in owning, managing, and improving property. But more than that, he is passionate about mastering inner wealth and emotional intelligence. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we'd be grateful for a like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, feel free to leave a rating and review. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.